राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन यमुना तीर विहारी
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 भज मन राधा चेतोहारी
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे गोविंदा
भज मन राधे गोविंदा
भज मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
भज मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
भज मन वृंदावन संचारी
भज मन वृंदावन संचारी
भज मन यमुना तीर विहारी
भज मन यमुना तीर विहारी
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा
भज मन 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 राधे गोविंदा बोलिए राधावर कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी
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 वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी गोविंद गिरिधारी गोविंद गिरिधारी ये वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
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 जय सिया राम जय जय सिया राम
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 बोलो राम 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 सीता राम सीताराम
बोलो राम 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 सीताराम
बोलो राम 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 सीताराम
बोलो राम 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 सीताराम
जय सिया राम जय जय सिया राम
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 बोलो राम 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 राजा 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 राम
जय सिया राम जय जय सिया 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 राम
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 जय सिया राम बोले सियावर रामचंद्र की सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Hari Om everyone. Can you all see me and hear me clearly? Awesome. Hope and pray that you're all doing well, being safe, and most of you should have started with your vacations here. So hope you're having fun time, as they say, hang loose, but have it cautiously. So today we will start with 3 Ohms, Sahana Vavatu, Guru Brahma, and then start with question answers as I call out the names between Hari and Divya. Please make sure that one of you is focusing on letting people in, one of you on spotlighting people so that they can be answering the questions. Yeah. So let's begin. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Welcome everyone. Are you all ready with the answers? One day I should have only one person answer all the questions. Just amusement. No, I'm not going to do it. Relax. Because the reactions are quite. Okay. Let's begin with the first question of today. And let me pick Arnav. Arnav Kejriwal.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. So let's see this. Can you hear me? How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself, Swamiji?
Doing awesome.
Good.
Okay. So I'll start with a very heavy question right in the beginning. You ready for it? Is Vedanta separate from Sanatana Dharma? Can it be separated from Sanatana Dharma? The floor is yours.
So I think my understanding of Sanatana Dharma is that knowledge which is timeless, that the laws which are timeless, and Vedanta is the application of that, the practical application of that for mankind or humankind. So Vedanta is the art of how do we gain the mastery or the knowledge that Sanatana Dharma holds. So I think to separate them is wrong, but to say that they're exactly the same is incomplete, because Vedanta is the practical application of that knowledge, but might not contain all of the knowledge or have the breadth of explanation that exists in all of the texts.
Hari, would you want to chip in?
Sure. Hari Om Swamiji, Hari Om everybody. Puja Gurudev, there's a video of Puja Gurudev on Chinmaya Channel's YouTube page of him answering this question. It's barely 3 minutes long. The question that was asked to him is Vedanta separate from Sanatana Dharma? In those 3 minutes, he starts by saying that this knowledge of Vedanta is a philosophy, not a religion. That's what he starts with. And he says the basis of any religion are these Vedantic principles, is what he says. The basis of any religion. So then we would think, okay, all religions then have to be based on Vedanta. Then that takes us for a certain spin. Then he qualifies that statement even further, saying, if there is any kind of thinking and called a religion that doesn't go by these fundamental principles that Vedanta provides, we cannot even call that a religion. That is simply a sect. That is simply a dogma. So in his answer, he qualifies what is a religion, first of all, to really make us understand what he says by this is a fundamental principle of all religions. And so Sanatana Dharma then is built upon this philosophy. Therefore, it's not separate at all. It is part and parcel, integral. They can only simply be one.
Awesome. If I can chip in, Vedanta, the term, I think I explained it even last time, is because in the very structuring of the Vedic literature, it has 4 books. It has been organized by Bhagwan Vedavyasji. He did not author them, but he organized it and put it in a written format for the first time. He put it in 4 books: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda. In each book, there are themes of study. These themes are called Samhita. And these Samhitas have further 4 subcategories: Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. And Upanishad being the last part of these classifications the last part of the Vedic literature in its classification. Therefore, Vedanam Anta, the last portion of Vedic literature. And you find them as the last portion of every Samhita. There are several Samhitas, and you will find this Upanishadic knowledge. So it is like the very essence of the entire Vedic literature, which is given in these Upanishads, which is Vedanta, which is further explained, expounded upon in Bhagavad Gita, in Brahma Sutras, in the Prakarana Granthas, for our easy assimilation and understanding. And Sanatana Dharma, that which is eternal Dharma, Dharma here has two aspects. One is the higher definition of it, which means my own true nature. That which is holding, that without which nothing can exist, because that is the very principle of existence. That is called Dharma. That is our higher true nature. In order to reach there, Dharma is defined as responsibility. Dharma is defined as trying to fulfill the karma yoga attitude filled life of karma, which is every act of our life. Then the mind has to be brought into a focal point with a lot of cleansing, internal cleansing that has to happen. So Bhakti Yoga offers that. Karma Yoga does the cleansing, and Bhakti Yoga brings it to that focal point. Then with the Jnana, which is happening through Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana of these Vedantic principles, and its application makes it a very integral part. So can it be separated? No. Is Vedanta separate from Sanatana Dharma? No, it is it's the very heart of Sanatana Dharma. Yes, can you separate Vedanta from Sanatana Dharma? It is like pulling the heart out. What will be left behind is dead carcass of processes without the meaning in it. So, thank you both for adding in and answering this question. Now let me see who to call. Amulya. There are a couple of you who have just joined this sessions just this week. So relax. I'm not going to call you. You don't need to sit on edge. Like, oh my gosh, this is the wrong way to start. I didn't know this is what would happen. Chill, relax. I am not going to call upon you. The next 3 weeks, where the first week I'll explain, the next after that will be you asking me questions, and then the third week will be when I will ask you questions, so that it is interactive. So this is your first round, a glimpse of it. So chill, relax, and watch what happens. It's a lot to learn as well. So relax doesn't mean like, learn as well. Okay. How are you, Amulya?
I'm thriving. How are you?
Awesome. That is the spirit of answer. I love the answer. I would have given you a high five if you were right here. I would have omed you up. Okay. Now going with a question for you. In Bhaja Govindam, which I had mentioned, which I had briefly touched upon, it states that satsang is very important. Yet, here we are warned never to look outside for help. That seems to be a very basic contradiction. Is there a contradiction, or how do you reconcile it?
So,
Spotlight is yours.
Hariom, I don't think there is a contradiction. So satsang is very important because it allows us to have a deeper clarity and understanding of what we're learning. And through satsang, we learn to use all of our senses, especially like seeing, hearing, and thinking, all of the things that we hear from other people, and other people have different opinions or different perspectives on how to see something that we would never understand ourselves. um, and asking for help is not a bad thing either. I think a lot of us, or at least I do, I have a hard time asking for help sometimes, but asking for help helps provide better clarity and understanding. So I don't think it is a contradiction, because like we need a guru, and we have a guru shishya parampara, where the student asks his or her teacher about like how to get help in the knowledge of the things that we need to learn. And that's not wrong to ask for help there. So it's not wrong to ask for help in learning about the knowledge of the Vedas. I don't think so. Hariom.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you. Brahmacharini Divya, do you want to chip in?
Yes. Good answer. It's the right answer. There is no contradiction. And so you did bring that point that satsang is very important because of, actually there's a little relationship that I'd like to showcase where we become what we think what we feed our brains. So when we are in satsang, you are feeding information, you are feeding through, like you mentioned, through all of our senses, what a guru does, what he says, how he acts, how he carries himself. That is all input that comes in. And so what we feed it, our mind starts to think along those thought lines, right? So you start to focus on it. And the more and more you focus on those line of thinking, you start to integrate it into your own personality, and then you become what you think. So when we talk about satsang, it is helping us with the first two stages of providing the environment and influence to start channeling our thoughts. But that last step of becoming what we think, that no one else can do. That is where Gurudev comes and says that, no one can help you in that particular regard. That integration and transformation has to come from you and you alone. So satsang is important in the very first two steps, but that last step of integration can only be done by you. No one else can do that for you.
If I may add to the things that you have already said, there are layers to this. The environment of satsang, shravana, manana, and nididhyasana that happens through that satsang is like the trainer wheels when you're trying to learn the cycling. But there comes a point wherein the antakarana or buddhi, intellect, is educated enough, and in that education it comes to a point of clarity. Clarity becomes conviction, and in that conviction there is a deep commitment. And once that unshakable conviction and commitment to walk this path is lit within, which is what is the crux of the Gayatri Mantra. There are several Gayatri Mantras. This one is the Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. What does it say at the end? Dhiyo yonah prachodayat. May my buddhi be illumined to have that constant inspiration to turn my attention, which is usually outside, inward, and tap into that source within, abiding in which anything with the outside becomes an easy task to dwell and interact and give the due diligence to it, until we reach to that point where the buddhi is completely illumined. That external support is required. But from there on, you or your buddhi becomes your own guru. If there is somebody who claims to be that before having reached there, then we are only fooling ourselves. Because we may have a moment of fame, but that is not going to cut it. That is not being sincere with ourselves. But we have to reach to that point. After having reached where the clarity and the conviction leads us further. So dhiyo yonav prachodayat. Until then, we continue to take the help from the external. That's what I would add. Thank you both. Yes. Now the next question, let me ask Ujjwal.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. Let them put you on the... Yes, there you go. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, Swamiji. Hello, Nadu.
Doing well, doing well. Long time no see. Okay, the question for you. Puja Gurudev writes in this particular chapter, religion does not improve the condition of the world. It does not aim to help us gain freedom from all needs and thus grant us a higher standard of living. Then the question comes, then does religion grant us any immediate benefits?
So, the way I understood this question, Swamiji, is that an immediate benefit that religion grants anyone who is on the path of spiritual growth and spiritual upliftment is that we can learn how to but to incorporate balance into our lives, where it is interacting with other people or completing our Dharma as citizens of the world, or as in our own time and as worshippers of Bhagavan. So it helps us create this balance in our lives and keeps us calm and collected in fulfilling our duties. And so in doing this, we can spread an attitude of continual perseverance, but also humility and collect. Actually, I don't know what the word for that would be, but being calm, and like it can help us spread the sattvic attitude towards others through our own actions, and through that, through self-improvement, we can come to benefit the world through our interactions, and that is eventually the way in which religion uplifts the world, is through upliftment of the individual.
Thank you. Thank you. Hari.
Hari Om. So there's one beautiful message that Gurudev gives when it comes to what the message of religion is. And he gives 5 pointers of how that growth offered by religion is facilitated. He says, introspect daily, detect diligently, negate ruthlessly, substitute wisely, and finally grow steadily. It's peppered throughout his works. Are any of these simple to do? No. Do any of these 5 give me immediate results? No. But the immediate benefit of even jumping in and doing these 5 things is I've altered my lifestyle already from living a certain way and having certain patterns. I'm on the right track. That immediate benefit of thinking in a new way, acting in a new way, cannot be discounted. Therefore, we can say, yes, the immediate benefit of religion is understanding what religion offers, what it doesn't offer, and seeing, am I getting on this right track, following these 5 basic principles to build a foundation for myself.
Beautiful. Both of you, I agree with you. But if I zoom out, as I would say, and look at it from what my experiences working in the field as a brahmachari and as now as a swami, I see it a little more differently. When I was in India working, the purpose of religion, spirituality, and the intensity of it was a little different Well, when I came here and as I was traveling through several states, we Indians have settled in the farthest, remotest corners of this country. And wherever 2, 3, 4, 5 families have gathered, they've invited and they wanted to have satsang or some kind of a connection. There, I find that in these remote pockets, amazingly brilliant kids. But then, because they are growing up in a very small minority where there is no one with the same skin, same belief systems, same practices, same values, the amount of self hate, like, why am I stuck in this? I don't like being this what I am. In comparison to those who have grown up in, say, New York, New Jersey, Bay Area, Dallas, Houston, where there's a huge Indian population. In fact, I met this little girl who the father was bragging about, said first time they went to the airport. And that is when she saw a lot of Caucasian population, white population. And then she blurts out to her dad, she was 5, 6 years old, Dad, there are so many foreigners here. Meaning in the locality, the neighborhood that she was living, it was predominantly with Indian population. The confidence of being what I am born in as, whether it is skin color, whether it is idli, dokla, puri, or batura, or dosa, it is not a yucky smell. How going to school, many people relate to those stories where your lunch boxes, you were feeling awkward to even open it because people would have, when there is every other person carrying the same the practices, the belief, you're not awkwarded. There is a sense of confidence, and that sense of confidence in oneself is key. And what religion provides is that binding force. So when people talk about, oh, I don't believe in organized religion, you are talking from a very personal sophistication of cushioned life where we do not know how psychologically this coming together brings that confidence, without which moving forward, that shraddha, without which moving forward becomes almost an impossibility. Like I've seen these earlier, first example, that they're brilliant kids, brilliant, amazingly brilliant. But then they do not have the confidence of being who they are. Therefore, all their brilliance is going in self-loathing and self-hating. Nothing forward, nothing good, nothing productive is happening through them. This gives them the opportunity to further usher themselves to higher glorious successes in life. So this is another aspect, another angle that I have seen through in my experience, I thought should be shared as a layer of understanding. Thank you both. Now moving down to the next question. Who do I call? Okay. Ayush Shah.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. How have you been?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Doing awesome.
Nice.
Doing fabulous. Nice seeing you. So the question for you is, what is the role of rituals in helping us learn the art of living, and where does it fit in? the field of rituals.
Okay. So, as you were talking about Vedanta and how that we discuss relates to like the pure sciences. So then the rituals component relates to the applied science, if we draw an analogy. So then the knowledge that we gain, in order to abide in it, in order to be stabilized in it, rituals play an important role. Like rituals help us inculcate those samskaras which can help to remove the vikars in our personality, and that then helps us to reduce our vasanas and then grow spiritually. Like rituals at a physical layer might seem something which is irrelevant or something which might be mundane, but then when we do a deeper analysis, then we understand the reason behind each ritual. For example, if we take the example of like doing a jap mala. So from a casual onlooker's point of view, it might seem as like doing a routine thing and getting nothing out of it. But then when we practice it and then when we have a deeper understanding, we realize that it helps in bringing the mind to that focal point from where we can have a platform to launch into the higher and turn our attention inwards. Otherwise, it's like our mind is always constantly running in different directions. And then if we take example of Shodopchar Puja or praying to a Vigraha, then that helps us bring our attention to that form of the Lord and then engraving it on, in our heart, so that in times of difficulties or like when there is no one outside to look for help, we can turn within and then uh, remember all those knowledge that we have gained and go in the right path.
Awesome. The two keywords that I'm picking from your answer is the use of the word samskaras. See, back then when we did not research into these English words, ritual has a completely different connotation, but in the past they have used it and we still continue to, but these are samskaras. Samskaras essentially means that which very purpose is to purify our antakarana so that it can be sharpened for both external and the internal purposes. And the second word that I heard you say is the ritual of even sitting in front of the vigraha and connecting to that vigraha with first the visualization, which is imagination. It's an imaginary process, but it is visualization, which as it strengthens, it gathers the potential to turn into actualization. And these samskaras finally lead us to that higher sattvic state. And with that higher sattvic state, we are productive. So the rule of law which I usually follow is Atmano Mokshaya Jagat Hitaya Cha, that it is uplifting the self and through that benefiting the world around as well. These two words I have picked. Other than that, Divya, do you want to add?
Nope. I think Ayush, you had a lot of details in there that covered from the mechanics all the way to the meaning and the bhava, and Swamiji picked up on the two most important words. I think it's good.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both. Now let me call Sanjana. Whoa. Can't hear you. Bummer. We cannot have question answers with I am not qualified with the sign language.
No.
Okay, you try again. Because we barely heard you and then we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes!
Okay.
Awesome. So Sanjana and Suraj, that is a surprise. Hari Om. So I think I'll stay on this frame couple of minutes or little longer so that I can ask 2 questions now. First one is to Sanjana though.
Okay.
Okay. So the question for you is, in what ways has the philosophy of Hinduism emphasized the importance of experience more than the philosophy of the West?
With Hinduism and the field of experience, or the importance of experience, we're much more focused on the how of what we do, right? And so I think Hinduism has more focus on the method with how we get outcomes, instead of I think in Western philosophy, a lot of times the focus is always on kind of like the end goal. Or so an example that I'm thinking of perhaps is in Western philosophy or Western religion, it's like, I'm going to do my sins, and then I'm going to ask for forgiveness at the end. I'm going to go and confess, and all of my sins will be forgiven. Whereas I think with Hinduism and with Hindu philosophy, a little bit more, it's along the way and in the process, we are trying not to sin from the start, or we're working through the experience. So that was at least the 2 differences that I was thinking of with this question, Swamiji.
Okay. Let's hear from Hari Chaitanya Garu.
Hari Om. So when it comes to what realization is, as defined by Sanatana Dharma, it's not just a knowing. Intellectually understanding what the philosophy says is important. Without that, there's no complete crystal clear clarity. But anubhuti is that personal experience of it. Owning it up of what my true nature is after understanding what it truly is. So therefore, being good, doing good, one level of practice and sadhana. Understanding goodness and badness, one level also. But going beyond that then, experiencing what that true nature is, knowing what it can't be, all of that plays a role in that full experience. And what Sanjana said, demarcating that uniqueness of Sanatana Dharma in that respect, amazing.
If I can crystallize these thoughts, first and foremost, when we are introduced to Hinduism, it is unlike the other non-dharmic religions, where they are more centric on God-fearing nature. That their book very clearly says you have to fear God. Yes, they define it as compassionate, but you have to fear God. Bhagavad Bhiti. But here we are more on the terms of squarely laying it out on the individual's lap, saying you have to, if at all have to fear about something, it is about your attitude towards your own karma. How you do it, how well you do it, with what attitude you do it, it comes back. You do it with the most sattvic attitude, it comes back in the most sattvic results. You do it with the most tamasic or rajasic, it will come back with that. And at that time when we don't like the result, we usually throw tantrums and see it as completely disconnect, that it is happening as though somebody is forcing that experience on my head. Therefore, they say it is not the Bhagavat Bhiti or God fearing, but it is the choices of karma that we do. That is one. And then the second one, the purpose of all this effort, we are not in search of the path of good. Meaning, we are not, which Hari touched upon very briefly, saying that it is not being good and doing good is sufficient. So we are not searching for good, but we are searching the seeker of truth. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That truth we are seeking. That truth which is the essence, that truth which is the substratum of this entire creation. And in knowing that, this question very beautifully brings out, the effort on our part to think how we reconcile these two aspects in our practice. And I would boldly say that what is offered in the platform of Hinduism, none out there can ever offer that. Because it is not about feel good factor, it is not about how you arrange or how you have the dialogue, but it is about the search for truth, and for which one has to liberate oneself from earlier convictions and be ready to have that tenacious, courageous mind to pursue it until you are abiding in that truth. So that makes it uniquely awesome path where the Upanishads declare Nayam Atma Balahinena Labhyaha. Those who do not have self-confidence and the courage will not be able to walk this path. Therefore, we have to build it as well. Thank you, Sanjana. Thank you, Hari. Hari, hang on there. And Suraj, hang in there. The question is for you now. Can science and Sanatana Dharma ever meet and come to a common understanding of life and its goals? If I may add one more smaller extension, do they contradict each other? Check, check. Can we hear you? Speak. Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear us?
Yep.
Is this working?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, we can't. Wait.
No, it's good. Go ahead.
I think that when we look at the goal of science versus the goal of religion, I think that they're actually pointing in two different directions. I don't think that you need to pick one over the other because both worlds are existing at the same time. But when I think about science, I think about the world of objects. So when we look at the BMI chart, when we look at OET, objects, emotions, and thoughts, I think that science aims to improve these objects and the sole focus is the outside. But religion is creating a goal of understanding the experiencer, that subjective side of it, and how to modify the experience in itself. So we cannot say that we can only pick one over the other, because for someone to only say that I'm only going to look at religion and completely dismiss science wouldn't make sense, because the world of objects is still there. However, the ultimate goal that is driving our actions should come from religion, because we are looking at that subjective part, how to improve the actual experience. Science might improve the quality of the objects, but then if that same individual has a negative mindset, equipment that is dulled, then even when the objects are fine-tuned more and more, the subjective experience is still one of unhappiness. but religion will help to modify that equipment in a way, purify it, so that in all experiences, regardless of how the OED changes in any way, there's always an abidance in the self, which that experience comes as pure joy. So I guess to conclude, I would say that they do have different goals, but you cannot necessarily separate them. It's just which angle you're looking from.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure Hari Chaitanya has definitely a different angle to give us. Hari?
Swamiji's second question of are they compatible really got me excited. Because science is that study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation. I don't know that. I just read it I actually looked it up just now. That's what the definition is. So we would say science is purely based on pratyaksha pramana, that valid means of knowledge dealing with perception of my five senses. Science is completely predicated on the observations made at that level. Now you look at the truth given in the Upanishads, you look at the crux of what Vedanta, what Sanatana Dharma is saying, is far beyond that. Through my five senses, there's no cognition of what this truth is. I have to go to scripture for that. So is it that science is opposed to religion and science is refuting what religion is saying? Not incompatible in that way. But like Suresh pointed out, when my goal is one thing, that what religion, what Sanatana Dharma is giving me, science does not meet that standard. It can help me in certain ways where Gurudev writes that science helps explain the field. Science helps to explain the field of joy, whereas religion defines the content of joy. When it comes to my life, then, is it just knowing what the field of joy is? Or do I want to experience knowing how to retain that joy, how to make the most of it? Having those two paths, then, religion would be the one I would always turn to.
I would say nothing more to add. Both of you covered it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you both. Actually, thank you both, as in Sanjana and Suraj, and thank you, Hari, as well. Now, moving to the next question, I would call upon Shruti Maram.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om, how are you?
Good, how are you?
You can say it a little more cheerfully, right?
Good. Swamiji.
Yes, good. Now the question for you is, why is it hard to look within my own vikaras, negativities? How do I build that courage to look and work at them?
I think a lot of us are just so used to running away from our problems, and in this society, there's so many easy ways to do that, like social media, getting on our phones, talking to other people, that we can just get easily distracted, and we're more used to deflecting our problems and not focusing on them rather than just working through them and moving past them. Yeah, I think that's all.
Okay. Brahmacharani Divya?
Yeah. So that.
Did you flip the image?
Yeah, because I was told that, the left side, anyhow.
I saw that change and I said, she flipped the image. Okay, got it. Go ahead, please.
So yes, in one regard, that is true, but I wanted us to dig a little bit deeper in understanding vikaras. So when we grow up and when we start to discover more and more about what our world is and who we are, and we go through that discovery process, there's a lot of aspects of that paradigm that we continue to build, and it's building the identity of our ego. So oftentimes when we come to the scriptures, when we go through experiences and tell us to look at our vikaras, our egos don't recognize it as vikara. This is who I am. And now that very ego is being questioned. So it's like its existence is being threatened, and that's where the strength and pain of looking at vikaras come from, that it's questioning who I am and the paradigm of what I understand my world to be. If you rip that away, you know, taking the vikara out, it feels like our world and who I am can crumble. That's from like a more deep, like extreme sense. And so that is why it becomes so hard to focus on a vikara. So how do I build that courage instead? That it's reminding myself that I must remove that vikara in order to build something more stable, to build a better paradigm of what my world is. And there was a reference in We Must, the end of the chapter. This particular chapter tells us to read chapter 5 and chapter 6 of We Must. And it was beautifully said that in the beginning, we have faith, right, in what is being told to us, but we can build fortitude and confidence when we build that identification with the higher. So when we turn our perspective to connect with the higher, we build the strength to let go of the low, what our ego and the lower tendencies that we have. So it's about shifting our identification. Am I going to identify with my ego, which will hurt every time I get, pay attention to vikara? Or will I identify with the higher, knowing that the vikara has to be dropped? So I hope that was clear.
Just one line that I would add is, first is the strength or the courage to look straight into our own eyes when we look at ourselves. While we are trying to peel off these layers of negativities, we need to also know, because an empty mind is a devil's workshop. It can flood in with so many things, self-doubt, self-worthlessness, and various things that can happen. So you have to, while you are trying to remove it, you have to actively engage that mind to inculcate the sadgunas, the positive virtues. Therefore, when we do Navaratri, the first 3 days is cleaning the mind with all the negativities. The next 3 days is to inculcate these positive qualities. With that, then the last 3 days is to focus on the highest. So we do both, not just remove one, but also engage that mind to flush this out with the positive brought in. When that transition is happening smoothly, that is when the courage, confidence in trying to do it again and again and to grow systematically higher becomes a possibility. Thank you both. I'm just looking at who to call the next. Bhavani.
Swamiji.
Hari Om. How are you?
I'm great, Swamiji. How are you?
Awesome. My question to you is, how do I elevate my intellect to understand that Hindu scriptures are the reliable authority in my life? A very serious question again.
So the first thing I would say is kind of learning about the masters that we know whose lives have been transformed by the scriptures. So it's like Gurudev, Swami Vivekananda, like we have living proof of that. So sometimes I feel like that is enough, being in the presence of those kinds of people. Guruji, we see how their interactions are. We see how Vedanta has kind of transformed their lives. So I guess that's the first thing. And then keeping an open mind and like a cautious attitude when we're learning the scriptures, and asking questions for the sake of clarifying our doubts, but not to find loopholes or ways to justify our own opinions about Hinduism being not credible or something like that, kind of keeping an open mind when we're asking these questions. And then once we have the answers to these questions, putting in our own effort to contemplate and work it out for ourselves so that knowledge kind of becomes our own, and then we don't have those doubts again.
Harigaru?
That word authority gives us a lot of allergic reactions sometimes. Someone telling me what to do, I have to follow and everything. When the level of an opinion that we have to follow, that really becomes a very hard thing to do because we have our own opinions. If I come to the understanding, the guidelines given by Shastra, the fundamental principles elucidated upon are not the opinions. Even when a master, a sage, a Swami speaks on these things, it's not their opinion. It is what those fundamental principles are. That's what scripture is going by. When I have that understanding, then taking it as authority, and Swami just mentioned this so many times, that these principles don't apply to me just because I believe in them. It's a principle like gravity. I don't believe in gravity, so I'm going to try to fly off my building. I will meet a very bad fate if I do that. Same way then, Vedantic principles, what's given in Shastra, even if I don't believe in it, it still applies to me. Why not take that as the authority then to see I've lived countless lives not understanding this truth? Why not use this lifetime for that?
I was laughing because I was imagining Hari, try to take that jump in his yellow suit and then be the new Spidey Man or yellow spider or whatever. So I was imagining all kinds of things with that example. But I think you nailed it. Thank you, Hari. There are several questions and at least 2 or 3 of you who have not called upon. But I think we are running short of time. I'll pause here and ask Shivani, are you here? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please chant Hanuman Chalisa?
Yes, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raj Nija Mana Mukura Sudhari Barano Raghubar Bimal Jasu Jodayak Phalachari Buddhihina Tanu Janike Sumiro Pavana Kumar Bala Buddhi Vidya Dehu Mohi Karahu Kale Sabikar जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपी सतिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत तुलित बलधाम अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नाम महावीर विक्रम भजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन भरण विराज सुबेस कानन कुंडल कुंचित केस हाथ वज्र ध्वजा भिराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी यति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाय सजीवन लखन जियाये श्री रघुबीर हरषि उर लाये रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई सहस बदन तुमरो यश गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीषा नारद शारद सहित अहिषा यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण मान लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जान जुग सहस्र योजन पर भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाही दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी शरण तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज सम्हारो आपै तीनों लोक हांकते कांपै भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासै रोग हरै सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीर संकट ते हनुमान चुरावे मन क्रम बचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पास सदा रहो रघुपति के दास तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुबरपुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई और देवता चित्तन धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख खरई संकट कटे मिटई सब पीरा जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीर जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई छूटे ही बंदी महासुख होई जो यह पर हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जय नाद हृदय महडेरा पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुरभूप सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय.
Thank you so much. We will chant 3 times Mahamrityunjaya mantra and Harigaru 3 times.
ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्.
Thank you, Hari. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Have an amazing week ahead. Enjoy your week. See you again in next satsang. Hari Om.